To be honest, I don't know what to tell you just now. I've been looking at these readings for a wee while. Remain in me. Cut off from me, you can do nothing. Make your home in me as I make mine in you. Actually, a thought that had occurred to me was, again, I've said this a couple of times, and just to repeat it, our enemy isn't other people. Our enemy is not other people. Other people can be problematic. We've all experienced that. But they're not the enemy. We have an enemy, and he's not a human being. Human beings can be influenced by, confused by, led by the enemy, but we are more victims than the enemy. And, it seems to me that over this lockdown, the enemy is using this to try to cut us off from the Lord, to separate us from him, so that we can do nothing, so that we are powerless. The enemy wants powerless, weak Christians. No, the enemy doesn't want powerless, weak Christians. He doesn't want powerless, weak Christians. He wants no Christians at all. That's what he wants. And he will achieve that by cutting us off from the Lord. That is what he does all the time. That is his goal. His goal in your life and in my life. He seeks to cut us off from God. In this time of lockdown, it's been a kind of big, obvious trying to cut us off. You cannot go to church. You cannot receive the sacraments. Will we let him get away with that? Have we let him get away with that? Okay, we haven't been able to come to Mass, but we've been able to come to a live stream and at least spiritually receive communion, still spiritually stay in communion with him. Other people, unfortunately, have not had that grace and have abandoned even watching live stream Masses, which are a poor, poor second to what we're experiencing here. Because when we come here, so the enemy seeks to separate us from what we receive here. Because what do we receive here? We receive God himself here. And the enemy does not want you and I to experience God himself. Because when we receive God, we receive life. When we receive God, we receive everything that we actually need. Other stuff, though good, doesn't fulfill our deepest need. They can satisfy for a time and leave us empty, if it's sin. But it's here we find our deepest need. We find our power, the grace to act, the impetus to move forward and bring the gospel to others. But the enemy does not want you and I to do that, so he wants to cut us off from this, from God. And he uses all sorts of tactics. The big obvious tactic now is the lockdown. You cannot go to Mass. But in our personal lives, one-to-one, he will tell you things like, you are not good enough. This is the enemy's voice. You are not worthy. You are bad. You are not a good human being. The enemy will tell you that God does not love you. And so praying is a waste of time. And he will try to convince you to abandon God. He will convince you to cut yourself off from him. And it's all a lie. Because cut off from him, you can do nothing. And that's what he wants. Do nothing. Do nothing. And so you and I have to fight. You and I have to struggle against this enemy, against his lies, to remember the truth. You are loved. You are wanted by God. He desires to give himself to you, not in small part, but completely in everything that he is. That's what we receive here. Everything. Not a small part. Everything. And Satan doesn't want you to receive this. Because when you receive this, when you are filled with the very presence of God, it is the opposite of you can do nothing. It is you can do anything, because all things are possible to God.